Welcome to Nothing Moves Without Us, a Black culture podcast where me and my co-host Thomas discuss the past 30 years of Black media through music, entertainment, movies, and TV shows. I'm your host Clifford.
You just said Thomas, so I'm sticking with it.
All
I'm
right, and
Thomas.
I already introduced Thomas. He doesn't want to speak for himself. So,
I appreciate it.
what's up, man? How's everything going?
Things are good, bro. Just excited to be back on the podcast in the podcast world with my brother. So
All right.
things are
So
good.
before we jumped on, we were talking about Clubhouse. Clubhouse has kind of been the the final part of the series for us. So, we did Family Matters first two seasons, first two episodes, and then we did a Clubhouse at the end. And the Clubhouse for us was really just wanting to bring the conversation to a wide audience and kind of recap and gain new perspectives from listeners and viewers. So today you're like, you're not feeling it. You're kind of done with Clubhouse. So
Yeah,
what's the experience been?
I just think Clubhouse, from the pages that I've seen or the rooms that I've seen and been a part of, is just there's no there's nothing happening for me. I feel like a lot of the rooms I see that either really kind of entrepreneurship, business focused, or they're about dating and love and relationships.
Right.
I feel like the dynamic that you and I bring and what we're looking to do and bring to the table, I don't see on Clubhouse. So that's why we originally had a conversation. I was like, it'd be great to have part of the podcast be on Clubhouse. But to be completely fair, I'll speak for myself. I haven't been on it as I could be, right? Like I haven't really been pushing it as I could be. So there are some opportunities there, but I'm just not feeling the club. I'm thinking about deleting it completely.
Right.
So, what about you? I know you've been checking it out. You'll be texting me and be like, "Yo, look what I found."
Yeah, that was like, I don't want to get into specifics, but someone who we had a conversation with on Clubhouse, like I saw him in a group, or he had a title in his name that was just mad, it's bigoted, and I was like, yo, like people are, it's a weird duality, right? Like you get on a mic, you get on, I mean, even us, like you get on a mic in one aspect with someone, you have these enriching conversations, and then 3 days later, like you find out they're racist or a bigot, or that they're shaming people. It's weird, but I mean, it's life. Like I can't. I mean, I've been weeding off social media these past, maybe really this past year, just really focusing on just creating more and consuming less. So the only reason I got Clubhouse was for this podcast, and I think I've joined like maybe one room, and I'm like, this really isn't for me, right? It's just talking. Like I can talk. This is talking, right? I rather talk to create something concrete and substantial. Um, but I mean, early on when we first talked about it, and even to your point now, I think what we're doing is just wholly different and enriching. I mean, from what you told me, like a lot of the topics on Clubhouse are just negative and toxic and bashing people and bashing different groups. So on my end, like I'm hoping that it becomes a space to kind of just share, share the culture, right? Share the culture, share the progress, share perspectives, and kind of be a breath of fresh air from toxicity. So like you say, right? This is what you look forward to every week. So I want other people to kind of be able to chime in and like have the podcast be what they look forward to in the week. And I guess maybe for us, it's just kind of finding that medium or that space where it really works, where we can have people engage and make it more interactive and fun. So that's a bit more work to do, more work to do on our end, I guess.
Yeah, and you also you think about how people consume information and media these days, and you and I were just two super laid back cats. We watch, we listen to things that work for us,
Right.
and if we could do a podcast and have someone literally just share with the world, do all the back end work for us, we'd be good. So hopefully that
Right.
happens one
Right.
day. But I think that's the biggest challenge for me is being able to share with the world. There's so many people I'm like, yo, I do a podcast now, and they're like, what word? Because I don't really share with the world like that.
Right. Right. Right.
And not that I don't want to. It's just I just have a lot of other things going on. So it's an honor to be able to rock out with my boy and have these I would enriching conversations is one side, but also on another end is really dissect our childhood, dissect our
Right, right,
history,
right,
and that's what makes it fun to me. When I'm watching something, I'm like, yo, can't wait to share this part with Cliff. I'll talk to Cliff
right,
about
right, right.
this. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a good transition into this, you know, a truly different world. so, so for quick, quick week recap. Previous episode we did season one, and most of the conversation was just us confused. Like I don't know what what this is. I don't know where the show is going. I hope it picks up. Season two, episode one. I felt like like I was living in a cave for years, and I came out for the first time, and like that first episode is just enriching. It's rich, vibrant colors. The intro was just wholly different. I was listening to it last night. I was watching a few more episodes last night. I'm like, yo, this has soul, right? Like the original intro didn't really have any soul to it. It was just like going through and flowing. And I'm just watching the intro. I'm watching the like that's the creative aspect. Like I never really paid attention to the transition scenes, right? I just thought it was like one steady flow, but it's like different cuts. There's so much production behind that intro, considering what it was, rather for the time in the '80s. What was your first impression on episode one in that intro?
I couldn't have said it better, bro. I was blown away. Like when I turned it on and the intro came on, I was like, "This is what I remember." Like I
Right,
started to remember it again, and I was like, it's so much depth in it. It has so much depth, not depth. And I was just like, "Yo, this is crazy!" Like even the whole each I guess segment or each transition in the intro highlighted something that person either was going through or it just really showed their dynamic in the show. And
right.
I was just blown away. And then once I didn't see who's the
Denise
white
Huxtable,
no
no? Oh,
Denise, we know she was out, but Marissa
Marissa
Tomei,
Tomei.
when I didn't see her character, I was like, all right. And then when they introduced the new characters, they introduced Kim and they introduced Freddie.
Right.
It was just great. It just made so much more sense. And what really stood out to me was when you and I were talking about when we talking about this on the podcast last episode, where you were like, um, there may be a reason why it's kind of happening this way, right? Like it's the first episode. I mean, the first season. They're trying to figure out kind of direction. There's a reason why it's happening this way, and is is this what a historically black college really feels like? Right?
Right.
We were confused in season one, but
Right.
season
Right.
two,
Right.
I knew it. I was I was like, all right, okay, this is great. So yeah, man, totally the total switch. I also appreciated that they didn't quickly dive into the whole Dwayne and Whitley thing. I really loved
Right.
that.
Right.
It took
Right.
some time to develop. That was great because I remember that being really really pivotal throughout the series. Um, yeah, man, it was great. I'm so happy that we stuck to it because that first season was tough.
Right. Right. It's I like our agreement or the kind of general agreement for the second episode of TV shows is about 3 to 4 episodes a season. Between the middle seasons, I couldn't stop watching. Right, I started to see episode one. I was watching two, three, four. I think I watched. I might have watched the whole entire first season. Like I could not stop appreciating just like just the representation, the dynamics, the humor, the unique characters. It was fun, and like I said, I don't think I've really I don't remember watching it as a kid. Like none of the episodes I watched sparked any memories for me, so I don't think I really cared about the show growing up. So it's a new experience for me, like throughout the entirety of watching it. So I'm just like learning everyone's story and appreciating all the characters, seeing their growth, seeing their development, appreciating like the new characters that are coming through. like Sinbad. Like, I've watched Sinbad comedies in the past, and it's like, yo, this dude has just been funny forever, man. Like it's this is what it should be. Like, I think like last night I was going through season 5, and I'm like, yo, like this is culture representation. Like, I think the entire show features I think all the different aspects of cultural representation. Like a lot of it, I'm thinking about the relationship between adults and the younger generation, which I feel is missing
Yeah,
in modern TV. I think in most times there's, like, we always go back to Blackish because I feel like that's kind of the default in terms of shows that I really like watched or invested time into. And there's a disconnect between the younger generation and older generation. There's disrespect. There's, you don't know what you're talking about. But in this show, all you see is the younger generation having the utmost respect for, for Mr. Gaines,
yeah,
for the this everyone. And I'm like this is what it needs to be. This is what's missing from modern day culture, I feel.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, like it. I think also was really stunning to me was how everything you and I talked about from season one. I feel like it was
They
answered
heard us.
immediately. Like immediately,
Right.
like Dwayne Wayne went from being this annoying guy that wants to every woman to he still had he still had those moments, but he was this intelligent. Like I think if I remember episode 1 of season 2, he was on the flight with was it season 2 or maybe season 3
That's season 3,
when he
episode
was on
1.
when he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
coming back from the internship. Like that was so cool to me. Like to see this
All right.
brother dressed up in a suit and everybody showing him love and Whitley stunting on him like yo
I
like I
said he turned into Stefan Urkel. That's what I said. He turned into Stefan on that.
but he's always been known as this super smart guy. Like there's an episode in season 2 where Sinbad asks him to tutor the football player,
Right.
one of the football players, and he's a little apprehensive, like I really don't. But then he like while he's tutoring him, he figures out like his learning style is different,
Right.
which is beautiful. Like it was just so. I was just blown away, and when Freddie was introduced, it was cool to see someone really into Dwayne, like to see the see
Right. Right.
see
Right.
see a female into the male character who's not he's not an asshole. He's just a smart guy who, he plays around because that's what you do in college. Um, and I just was really, 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 really like, and the cameos were incredible, man. Like as the seasons went on, just random like you see
Right.
Patti LaBelle, and then you see like, bro, I was blown away with certain cameos. I was like, yo, this is great. Um, I, yeah, I love it. I cannot wait to watch season 6. I love it.
I like that you brought up Freddie initially because I liked her character initially. I liked that she was swooning over Dwayne and she was like this nerdy, geeky girl, and that's her character throughout most of the show. But I think like even like as a dude, right? It's nice to see a woman like fawning over a guy, right? Like it's dope to see that. Like I think we all kind of, I think a lot of people like you want to see yourself in that situation. You feel valued and you feel appreciated having someone like really interested in you, even though you may not be interested in them. And I think Dwayne like went on one date with her, but he had his eyes set on Whitley. But eventually, Freddie just became this. She became too quirky for me, right? I liked her quirkiness within the realm of chasing Dwayne. But then it was like, I'm okay. Like, there was this one episode of season 5. So season 5, yeah. Let me see if I can pull it up. But she was trying to get into. I mean, I kind of watched this while I was falling asleep last night. She's trying to get into this African heritage class, and she did this whole performance. Um, the class was booked. The class was booked, and the colonel's son tried to get in, and he like he's supposed to write an essay, and he wrote like a one-line essay. And the professor was like, "Yeah, that's not gonna cut it." So Freddie comes in class. She's like, "Oh, please let me, I really want to get in your class." And he's like, "Well, you missed your shot, but it's too late for a paper." And she's like, no, I have something better. So like she turns off the light, she pulls out a flashlight, she does this whole entire beautiful performance. Like she's like doing written word, maybe not written word, it's like poetry. She's has a flashlight, she's doing dance, she throws glitter around, and it's just like this whole beautiful performance. And she gets into class, and I thought about all the other different, like going back to like cameos, and not even like guest cameos, but just the immersion of culture. Like in um season, what was it? Sorry, that season 4. There's an episode called "A Word in Edgewise," and they bring in the National Theater of the Deaf for Walter's outreach program. And there's I think there's 2 or 3 deaf people there, and they're signing. There's this why can't I get his name good?
Yeah.
I have to look it up, but there's one of the newer characters. I forgot his name, but he's one of the few main white characters or supporting characters, and he's like doing a rap while the deaf guy's like signing throughout all of it, and it's the immersion of culture, right? It's the inclusivity. It's allowing people just to kind of see that like all aspects of life is we're all the same. We're all kind of experiencing the same life experiences, and it teaches acceptance, which I think is also important too.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that you said that, and we always talk about certain episodes that stand out to us. And I know in season 1 we were like zero,
Right, right,
like,
right.
but in the coming seasons afterwards, season what is it? Season 3, I believe. Let me see season. In season 3, there's a specific kind of, I don't even know how to say it. There was an episode where Ron ran into um or Ron, I guess Ron was trying to figure out what he wanted to do, and he always, Ron was always a funny guy to me because he always used to get on Dwayne for not getting at Willie.
Right.
So he'd be like, "Yo," he's like, "Yo, she's really into you, and if you don't get out, I am," which I thought was hilarious. But and I'm having trouble finding the episode as well, so I probably should have wrote it down beforehand. But there was an episode where he's literally going from this guy that him and Dwayne are really really close best friends. So you can see them starting to kind of go their separate ways. You can see Dwayne starting to mature. He's starting to step into his manhood, and then Ron is just being basically taking over Dwayne's role from season 1. It's
Right, right, right,
it's
right.
like this savage type, trying to talk to every girl, and it was weird because I feel like season 1, Ron, at the end of season 1, Ron had like someone he was feeling, and then even the beginning of season 2, I believe he had a girlfriend or he was dating somebody. So
I thought he was crushing on Kim mostly.
no, he was dating some at the beginning of season 2. He was dating somebody,
Okay.
uh, and he was dating multiple girls throughout the series. Like it's switched up because remember, I don't know if you remember the episode where him and Dwayne were working on a project together. They were working on like a class project, and he'd rather hang out with the girls than
Oh
work on
yeah,
a
yeah,
project,
yeah.
and Dwayne had to do all the work. And he tried to be slick. I think it was actually maybe episode 1 or 2 in season 2, and he tried to be slick and buy a paper for somebody, and Dwayne tricked him.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that had me dying. Man, at the end of that episode, I was literally in tears. It was so well done. He's like, he tricked me, and Dwayne's like, he said I'm good at what I do.
Right.
Um,
It's season 2, episode 2. The Gentlemen of Hillman. Dwayne and Ron team up on a philosophy research paper.
yeah, yeah. So those episodes are really really cool to me because it kind of showed their brotherhood. But even in addition to that, you saw Dwayne maturing.
Right.
And then I thought what they really did really well with the show is, depending on what year you were in, you can see the you can see how the person's growth from freshman to sophomore to junior. Like each character, whatever year they was in, when you went to the next season, you could see them grow as a young adult.
Right.
That I thought was really 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 dope. So
And
um,
it's funny that sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 that's all I have.
It's funny that you brought up Ron up because Ron became my least favorite character, and I didn't even think about him replacing Dwayne. I think that's partly why I stopped liking this character. He was just annoying, just whining all the time, and just going back to Thirsty, just it's like yo, relax, bro. And like going back to your point of seeing the evolution of people's growth, right? In season, I believe it's season 5, he's barely graduated, right? He lies to his dad about graduating, right? And like those are the consequences of him not maturing, which I think is a dope thing to consider.
Yeah, he also it's it was an episode where he got like it was like a really serious episode of it was about like homelessness. Do you remember that episode?
Yeah, I watched that one too. Yeah,
And let me see what it was in season 4, episode 8, um, where Ron learns this lesson about homelessness, and he's like giving all this. He's in class, and he talks about how homeless people could work. They could get jobs. Why they like it's their fault, and everybody's like,
right, right,
nah, it doesn't really work that way. And then he actually has an experience where he runs into someone from a popular restaurant that ended up closing because the owner had to do some stuff with it. I don't know if he was the owner. I guess he was one of the employees. He had to take care
No,
of his
no,
mom. Oh, he owned
he
it.
owned it. It was
Okay.
it was it was his barbecue spot. Yeah,
So he ends up
yeah,
going to take care of his mom, and for whatever reason, uh, things didn't work out. He couldn't maintain, and he ends up becoming homeless. Ron runs into him and tries to help him. And it really, he learns throughout this process that it's just not that easy. Like
right,
life doesn't come at you that easy. And I thought that was an extremely powerful episode for him because he wasn't the jokester. He had moments, but when he invited the guy to spend the night, he's like, hey, stay at my house, and then tomorrow we can get you back on your feet. And the gentleman was like, that's not really what I want. Like it's a lot of work for me to do
right.
all that stuff again. You don't understand. And I just thought it was really cool to see Ron's humility like in that space. Um, and you could tell throughout the seasons when there was something that was really near and dear to him, he was a little more mature. But when it was anything that had to do with women, he was just out of control. But um, and you're right. I think Kim. The thing about Kim that I really love is that Kim, if I'm not mistaken, she was her major was to become a doctor.
Biology. Oh yeah, yeah. She's gonna be doctor. You're right.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
great, right? To see someone, this her and Whitley when they first get together in season 2, arguing over the the poster, like arguing over this poster of the human
Human
anatomy.
anatomy. Yeah,
It was just so cool. I was like, this is so cool. They're not arguing over like just pointless shit. They actually it was a dumb argument, but it was cool to see that this woman and Kim wasn't with Willie's bullshit. She was like, "You're not gonna
right.
be treating me any type of way, even though I'm coming in new." Um, and their dynamic was great too. I have to apologize to not Bill Cosby because I don't think he had much to do with it. But I really believe, and I try to find more information on it. But it sounds like Debbie Allen was the one who like made it happen. And obviously there were other writers and directors a part of the show as well. But just the creativity and the blackness, and even the episode when they protest the radio show, or the radio station, Dwayne's radio station.
I don't think I watched that one.
There was an episode where they actually it was in maybe season 4 where they actually have like a full on protest. It was in season 3. But the way he plays a track without getting it cleared. And the dean is like, "Yo, we're gonna kick you off the radio station, or your radio show's closed." And the school, the students come together and protest his radio station. Come to find out, the song he didn't get cleared was like super ratchet, and it wasn't supposed to be played anyway. So
Right.
he ends up having to apologize,
Excuse me.
but they all band together to like protest this cause. Like all the students come together, they go to the radio station. They're like, we're not leaving until Dwayne's back on air, and it's just really cool to see them come together. But also when he finds out that he's dead wrong, he actually speaks up and he apologizes.
Right.
And it just like you said, there was so much more when after watching it an episode that I was like, I feel really good. Like I feel
Right.
I learned something from this. And yeah, man, now I see why people love it. Because after season one, I told a couple of my friends about, you know, you and our thoughts, and they were like, "What? Like this show is incredible." I'm like, "Nah, bro, it's trash. Like it's season one is like it's terrible." And then now watching it season 2 through 5, it's been such a breath of fresh air. And I'm actually glad season one was the way it was because it shows it like really, really what a show can be. It shows a development. Like it show it
Right.
just I learned a lot from a TV standpoint and production standpoint. So
I
yeah.
mean, I really like your point about them maturing, and I'm also thinking about when you brought up Kim's major and just the diversity in all of their majors, right? Like they're the traditional, um, like stereotypical perspective, right? Is just be a doctor and a lawyer and just kind of do fall into line and just do the do what everyone excuse me, do what everyone else does. But you consider, Ron's a sorry, not Ron, excuse me. Dwayne's a math genius, right? Kim is doing he wants to be a doctor. I don't know what Ron's major is. I looked it up. I couldn't find it. But Whitley was I believe she wanted to work in museums or like to sell art or like be an art
Yep.
curator. And there's all these different opportunities to kind of see yourself like see yourself through it, right? And I think that's something that's missing. Like when we think about other shows, or go back to Family Matters, you just see these kids in high school. Eddie ends up being a cop because his dad was a cop, but you see like when Patty LaBelle, she guest stars as Dwayne's mother,
Yep.
and she's telling a story about how she brought him to one of his accounting classes as a kid when he was a kid, and the teacher like finishes an answer, and Dwayne is like, "Hold on, you made a mistake." And it's ever since then the teacher's like always asking him to double check the work. And as a parent, you see that gift, and you cultivate it, right? You cultivate your child's natural gifts, and you see them blossom until whatever that I guess whatever that field or whatever that passion is for them. For Whitley, it's the high end. I use the word bougie lifestyle. That's what they call the. But she looks for a career within that realm that allows her to honor who she is as a person, but still learn about what she cares about, while still being immersed in the culture and like the passion that comes with the art lifestyle.
Yeah, there was so much really spot on, um, just topics and spot on points. Um, I just spent a couple minutes trying to find the episode. There's a specific episode that like really was really is really dear to me. I watched it like a couple times, so I don't know why I didn't write down the. I probably didn't write it down because I was so into it. But
Right.
but there's an episode where Dwayne goes to Walter and he's like it's probably season 2 season 3, and he's like, hey man, I don't want to take Colonel Taylor's class. I hear his classes. He's a calculus teacher, and he's like, I hear
Yeah, I
his
think that's
class.
season 2, episode 1. I think that's the first
Oh,
one.
it's in
Yeah.
episode 1. Okay,
Yeah.
he's like, I don't want to take this class, and he's like, you gotta help me get out of it. And instead of Walter being like, Walter plays along with him,
Right.
but instead of him just like, I'm gonna go get you out, he actually go talks to Colonel Taylor and finds a way to make it into something that actually is feasible for Dwayne to want to do. And then at the end of the episode, the work Walter went in to have the conversation with Colonel Taylor to get Dwayne to kind of see it in a different perspective, he didn't even need, because Colonel Taylor ends up connecting with Dwayne, and Dwayne
Right.
ends up taking his class. And it was just great to see this dynamic again with all these black men coming
Right.
together. You know, him not shunning Dwayne, him not attacking him. Even the end when he's getting his classes and Colonel Taylor's like, I want to challenge you. Like I want you to come to my class and be challenged. I just thought that was such a beautiful thing, and there's a lot of that sprinkled throughout these seasons where you see people come together in ways. You and I talked about Letty last in season one. There's several things that Letty does in the seasons after, until she's no longer in the show. But just her dynamic and um, Walter, I'm still confused with what he does because he's a coach one season, he's a dome director one season, he's a basketball coach. Like he's a jack of all trades. I'm convinced.
Right.
And I just love how him and Jalissa, like we kept calling her Jalissa, him and Jalissa,
Right.
how he just was
It
like, yo,
is
I'm gonna get my
Jaleesa
girl.
though. It isn't.
We were saying it wrong. So either it is Jalissa, and we were saying Jalissa. We
Okay.
When I listened back to what we said, we were killing her name. I'm pretty sure it's Jalissa. That's what
Yeah.
it was. But even him and her and their dynamic and how he treats her and how he has this comedic relief, but it's so positive, it's so respectful. Like he does it in such a cool way. Yeah, man, you hit it on the head with kind of just how it's important to be open minded to what was to come because I was ready to tap out after season one.
I like that you brought up like the representation of specifically black men, and I'm sure we'll talk about older black women too. But yeah, Colonel Taylor, Mr. Gaines, like on the surface, they're hard people, right? They're hard because they've been through like the civil rights. They've been through like the hardships of like the black experience. So you saying it and me thinking about it now is like understanding that they're hardened for a reason, right? Now you're a colonel for a reason. Like you've been through the grit and grind of the military to kind of become that person. So yeah, you're always gonna have this initial stigma and fear that surrounds your name and presence. But the only thing you really want from people is like for them to work hard, right? Like follow your path and honor your workload, honor the responsibility you have, and that's definitely what Colonel Taylor like showed off initially, like while coercing Dwayne to join his class. Mr. Gaines just he's just a funny dude,
I love that
funny
dude.
dude. There's in the episode A Word in Edgewise, the other side of the episode is Dwayne and Whitley doing a bet saying that Whitley can't stay quiet for 24 hours. So in the beginning of the episode, Whitley's in the pit, just talking, and Mr. Gaines just like, you don't say. And he's cleaning, and then I can't remember her name. Kim comes up to him. She's like, waves her hand in front of him, and he takes out earplug. So he's like, man, that girl just won't stop talking. And I'm cracking up like, yo, this dude is like, you still support, right? You support the younger generation, but like you don't deal with too much of that bullshit because she's gonna be okay. She's gonna keep talking and enjoying herself. And I love seeing that. I love seeing Patti LaBelle guest star. I love seeing her big up her son. I love I love Jaleesa's and Walter's dynamic, like you brought up also.
Yep.
They did you see the episode where they almost got married?
No, they almost got
Yo,
married. No.
yeah, it was just kind of out the blue. I mean, he was courting her. She was dating someone else, and he got friend zoned. That's what I thought about when I saw him. Like, he's in a friend zone, but he's still working for it because he wants her. He believes it would be right.
He was nice with
Proposes,
it.
yeah, proposes to her, and they're going through the whole thing. Right? It's like 5 minutes left in the episode. They're dressed up. They're in the dorm. The uh what's the name of the dorm? Not Hillman
Gilbert
dorm.
House.
The Gilbert House dorm. They're at the altar, and the priest is the priest or the minister or the I can't think of the word. Excuse me. the the person who does the marriage ceremony is like anyone have an objection, and they're both like, I do. And they're, wait, you don't want to marry me? You don't want to marry me? And she's like, yeah, it just feels rushed. And they're like, all right, everyone, wedding's off, and it's like, what? but they still cool, right? And then down the line, you get into season 5, episode 1. Her and Colonel Taylor get married. I'm like, yo, what? Like, this is
Yeah,
crazy. But again, it's dope just to see the growth, the transition. Maybe Walter's just a little too goofy for her, right? She wants someone a bit more mature and stable, right? Yeah, man. It's a lot of representation. There's a lot of representation. There's a episode where they go where Walter does like a lot of outreach work. So Whitley goes down to the outreach center, and she's doing like this Alvin Ailey, like the black ballet school in New York, and Alvin Ailey was a black man, and they're doing like a ballet on a stage in front of these kids, and this kid goes, "She's not a ballerina. She's black." And it's like, what? And Whitley's like, what? And Whitley just, puts him in his place. And it's, all these little cues, right? All these little cues and the conditioning of, what most people are used to seeing. You're used to seeing white ballerinas, right? But Whitley has been dancing ballet for God knows how many years. So these young kids learn that, it's not about that. It's not about white or black. Anyone can really do anything. And that's kind of the overall theme of the show, like the episode with the National Theater of the Deaf. Like that's anyone can do anything, right? Like someone asked one of the main deaf guy, like, what is it like to be deaf in the world? And he's like, well, it's same thing like being black or white. And he's same thing like being black or white, tall, short, like you just, it is what it is, right? Like my experience is my experience. Like I don't see it. I don't see myself within it. I just adapt to how my life is, and I sign, or I have people, or I read lips, or I have people who translate my sign into words for me.
yeah, yeah. When you brought up the whole thing about how Jaleesa's transition from Walter, I just think about like that's real life. Like sometimes you connect with someone, you guys have a great connection, you date, it doesn't work out, you cool, and you move on,
Right.
and it's positive, and I just that was something I just loved so much about just a lot of the things, or a lot of episodes that would start with a challenge would end in most cases with something positive. Like,
Right.
I remember the episode. I think it's also episode 1 or 2 from season 2 when Kim and Freddie are trying to get a job, and they go down to the pit, and Mr. Gaines is like, peel his sweet potato. It's so funny.
Yo,
And,
Freddie's hilarious.
and
Freddie's
Freddie like
hilarious, man.
Freddie's like scraping it and cutting it up, and Mr. Gaines is like, "What the hell?" He's like, "No, I just need the job for you." He says something so funny. I should have wrote down a quote. He was like, "What did you used to do before?" And she was like, "I think she was like, I used to work. Damn, I can't remember." She's like, "I used to work somewhere." He's like, "Yeah, I could tell." um, and she ends up not getting a job. Kim ends up getting a job, but instead of Kim like throwing it in her face, Kim's like, there are other opportunities out there for you, but go hard. Like, if you really want
Right.
this job, go hard. And I don't think she doesn't end up getting a job, but she does go back, and she's like, I really want this job. And Mr. Gaines is still like, nah, it ain't happening. But but it was cool to
I think he
see.
tells her like go plant trees or stuff. I forget
Yeah, he's
what he
like
said.
apply. He's like there's other jobs on campus. Go try other things. But it was interesting to me how once again, Kim didn't shun her. She didn't tease her. She didn't throw it in her face. She was like, "Hey, if you really want this, you got to go out and fight it." She's like, I'm pretty sure it was all about having experience. Kim had
Right.
experience in the food industry. Freddie didn't. So Kim's like, if you want to get experience, you got to start somewhere. So, go for what you believe in. And it just was so beautiful to see. Instead of her being like, "Fuck you, I got this job."
Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
and I just really, to your point, these first couple episodes, I was like, before you knew, I watched like 6, 7 episodes, and they only half an hour, so it just went by
Right.
really
Right.
quickly. Um, so I'm definitely there with you on that, and I guess I want to ask you because season 1, you had we don't even have to talk about Denise. Let's just take Denise out of the picture. But I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts around, having a white character and Marissa Tomei being having a prominent role to not really having white people in the subsequent seasons. So, do you think there was something missed? What are your thoughts about that? Because I have an interesting, I have a thought on it, but I would love to hear what you think.
You know, say I just want to pull up Matthew. That's who it was. So Matthew was Freddie's cousin, and he was. I brought him up earlier, and so like just to kind of transition into your question. But they have him as a token white guy in a different world who everyone loved. He was Freddie's cousin, so he had a bit of an inside track to Hillman College. What I think was missed,
Or if there was anything missed.
I don't think there was. I think the only thing that would be missed would be like cliche race conversations, um, or cliche racial tensions, or trying to educate white people about black experiences. But I don't. It, so like even in season one with Mercer Tomei, I don't think they really kind of went there. Yeah, I don't think they brought up any like real racial issues, which I think is dope because it doesn't always need to be that. And I think Freddie's cousin doesn't come in until season four. I didn't even notice, honestly. Like until he showed up, I was like, oh, I was like, oh my god, I haven't seen a white person talk who wasn't like a server or waiter in this show for that long. I didn't even notice it. So I don't think anything was missed. The I think the point or the purpose of the show as it is to show that within the the um the collective experience, within like the unity, like going back to the episode where you shared about Dwayne's show and then protesting, like that innate. And also Matthew, Freddie's cousin, he wasn't even in Hillman. He was in Avery, which was another like sister school in the area. But I think it showed. I know it's TV, so I want to be careful. It shows how enriching and free, supportive, and loving blackness can be without outside influence. I think that's kind of my answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because I think for me, uh, to answer the question, I don't think anything was missed. I think it was great. Or I don't think it was great to blackness, uh, see blackness on such a high level. Um, you know, growing up in the inner city in New York, to see some to witness what higher education could be from a TV show. I could just imagine, black people all around the country, and your South Centrals and your Chicago's, South Side of Chicago's, and watching this show and being like, I aspire to have experiences like this when I graduate. Like it does exist, and it doesn't matter where I'm from, right? They had, we talk about Jaleesa being from Jersey and Dwayne from Brooklyn, or I don't know Brooklyn, but he's from New York. Um, and that was something that I just really really thought, being if I was in my teenage years and early '90s, um, I see why A Different World is what it is now. It makes sense for me. And then the cameos were of prominent figures. Like it wasn't these cameos wasn't just some guy off the side of the road. A lot of cameos were black actors who paved the way in their own right, from movies, shows, theater, like all these. When I see their faces, I'm like, I know this person, and then I had to go look it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember him being in this
Right.
movie or that, or her doing this thing or that thing, and I watched a conversation interview with the cast, and I believe it was Ron that shared. There was an episode
I
where
thought we weren't supposed to do that. You skipping ahead, man.
no. I'm just sharing this. I just want to share this one thing. I'm not
I'm
gonna get
joking.
it.
I'm joking. I'm joking, man.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
joking.
not gonna get into it.
I'm not really.
I know we always talk about that last, but it wasn't it was just literally like a minute clip because I was looking at all the extras and cameos. And there's a clip where I believe it's Ron, it might be Dwayne, but it's one of the guys where they talk about there was an episode that they filmed that they were surrounded by literally like black historians. Like you look to the right, you look to the left, and you have like the Patti LaBelle's and the Gladys Knights and it's just mind blowing. They're just and he's like, yo, I'm on this show, like I'm a part of this,
Right.
and it was enriching and it was encouraging and that's what I took away from the show. Like obviously we haven't watched every single episode, but I can't lie. Even after we finish our podcast episodes, I'm gonna go back and watch. Like I really, and I probably watch it in a row
Yo,
because I've been
I said
watching
the
them.
same exact thing.
I've been watching them at random to get a couple episodes in every season. So, but I'm literally gonna go back and watch them back to back, and uh, yeah, I'm really proud of what it represented, and I hope because we talk about Blackish. Blackish is cool, but I think obviously there's different dynamics because we're in a different time. But I hope there's continued shows. There will be continued. We will continue to build shows that are as thoughtful when it comes to the Black experience as what we saw or what
Right.
we're seeing from a different world.
Yeah. I mean, there was at the end of season. What really stood out to me in terms of the the older generation, the younger generation coming together, and like tying to your point about them having these prominent figures in Black media or just the Black experience with the civil rights movement was season 2, episode 22. There's a No Place Like Home, and in the final, I mean, like, comparing it to season 1, however, the final episode of season 1, like I barely remember. But at the end of season 2, the final episode, final scene is everyone in the pit. Mr. Gaines is playing piano and is singing the song called "The Mean Children Blues," and everyone's just singing and laughing and having a good time. And I'm like, yo, this is so beautiful, man. It's like it's humbling just to see the connectivity, the collectiveness, the generations, right? The generations that's coming together and is having a good time, laughing and smiling. Um, and it like I think like we talk about connecting it to the present. So I think when you're younger, right? If me even me, I think knowing myself when I was younger, I wouldn't even consider that, right? I'd be on it for the laughs, like I said, Family Matters, Martin, Fresh Prince. I'm just watching the laugh. But as an adult, watching it and seeing the representation and on my own, right? Like if I've done my due diligence as a Black person growing up, right? When I see Alvin Ailey's name as an adult, as a 35-year-old, I should know who that is, right? I should know some of the key players in Black history. So going back and watching it, and again for me for the first time, I'm making these connections, right? And although I know the names and I may see them in passing or read it in passing, seeing them actually be represented and seeing the significance of the representation, right? Yet she's not Black. So she's not a ballerina. She's Black, right? Like it means a lot. It means a lot. And I think I really honestly feel like, to your point of like watching everything all over again, watching it in its entirety, that I think like it represents what this what this podcast is, right? That, like I think I said this earlier. I think the show in its entirety is a full spectrum of Black culture and what it means to kind of be Black, um, and all the different layers. You brought up, I forgot what you brought up initially, but one thing I wanted to ask you about was were the fraternities, and I guess just kind of like your general thoughts on fraternities and Black fraternities and how they're represented and how you see them fitting in within Black culture, either in the past or currently.
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer because I didn't go to a university. I went to a couple city colleges and I didn't stay. And I don't know much about fraternities or sororities, but from what I do know about them, they're all based in brotherhood.
Right.
They're all based in history, brotherhood, especially the black ones. And seeing it in the show, it reminds me of movies like Stomp the Yard and
Right, right, right.
like seeing it in movies. But but uh, but what was really interesting about this show is that you hear sometimes even it's so crazy you ask this question because maybe like a couple years ago there was uh, something I saw on the news about a young man, white fraternity, white young man who ended up dying because of some hazing that was happening, and hazing
Right,
was a big thing. And you hear a lot about that, and you watch it in a show like this, and you don't see that dynamic, like,
right.
which is it's a very interesting thing that they don't talk about it like that. And maybe back then in the '80s and the early '90s, it wasn't a big thing. Which, like I said, I'm not really familiar with fraternities like that. So, yeah, it's a hard question to answer because I'm not really well versed in them. But I do know people, everybody I know that are in fraternities and sororities that are in more black fraternities and sororities. They live and die by it.
Right.
There's this honor. It's like they're honored to be a part of this, and like I said, the brotherhood and the sisterhood, and you're in it for life because you're a part of this family, um, and that's something that I guess in some ways I wish I would have took part in when I was going to school, but I feel like
I
I'm
don't,
in
I
a
don't feel
brotherhood.
like you would do well in a fraternity. I don't feel like you'd be hazed or you would. I don't feel like you would put up with any of that.
Well, not 34-year-old me, but 21-year-old me maybe. I was tough.
Right, right, right,
I was tough when I was 21. So I was that. I always been kind of no nonsense, but if I
right, right.
knew if it was for a cause for me to be a part of a larger reasoning, right, or a larger brotherhood, I probably I would have took it to an extent. You're right. There was a point I'd have been like,
I'm
I don't
good.
know, yeah, the same for me. Um, but uh,
Uh,
but hey, it worked out the way it worked out. Like,
right, 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 right,
I made it.
right.
uh,
I've always. Oh, sorry.
no, I was gonna say that's a great question. I wish I had more info to give you.
I've I've always been and I've never joined a fraternity. I mean, I lived on campus. I've seen black fraternities. I know a few people. Maybe like one person in a black fraternity. Um, they've just always been weird to me. Like the so on one aspect, there's like you said, there's a brotherhood, right? And granted, that's what all fraternities are for. But the making it a black fraternity, and granted, I know you shouldn't have to add black in front of it. A fraternity should just be a fraternity. But I've always what's the right word? Wondered or yeah, I always wondered like why honor the Greeks, right? Like why honor the foundation of like the Greek characters, and why aren't fraternities rooted in like African roots or something more central to blackness? So like when I watch the episode, I see it, and I see the the stomping and the representation and the initiations. I get it, but I don't know. We always talk, and I would say there's room for more, right? There's room for more. I think there's different ways to kind of pull more from the experience, or like really, really, or truly make it more central to like what the black experience is. And I pulled up this article real quick called "The Divine Nine: Sororities and Fraternities on HBCU Campuses."
Yep.
So HBCULifestyle.com. Like since 1930, the National Pan Hellenic Council has served as a premier organization for African American fraternities and sororities. NPHE was founded at Howard University to support Black college students who are searching for a voice, community, and shared identity as they pursue their education. Um, and the organization plays a vital role in connecting the Black collegiates as they fought for equal rights and fair treatment under the law. Guys at the Greek organization. Yeah, I mean, it's always been weird to me that it's just this Greek. I think that's always kind of thrown me off a little bit. But that's me always nitpicking, right? The bigger picture and the most more important thing is the brotherhood, is giving voice, creating communities. Like the few people I know that are in fraternities, like you said, like you live by it. Like those are your brothers for life. They look out for each other. They support each other. Um, and it's a niche community that I think is definitely needed and important. I just wish they would have helped Ron out to do that in
That's
school.
funny. You just said something that I actually don't like about fraternities, and it actually really bothers me is uh, when you may be in one and I may mistake you for being in another. I don't know what they mean,
Right.
and I had a conversation with a friend about this, and he he's a Kappa, and I mistaken for something else, and he was like, "Don't you ever do that." It was like I broke a law. I was going to
Right.
be arrested, and I told him, I said, I don't mean any disrespect. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful, but if it bothers you that much, maybe I do. That's just kind of me. So I think if it bothers you that much, maybe hey, maybe there's a reason why I said it the way I said it. But I bring it up is because there's the episode with the when Whitley is kicked off of the step the step team type thing,
Right.
but
Right. Right. Right.
Jaleesa's like, I'm done. I got it, and then they need Whitley back. Um, why does it always have to be a competition? Right. That was something that popped into my head
Right.
too.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
you have these step competitions, the drum lines, everything's a competition. Um, Not to say that, and once again, I'm naive to college life, so I don't know if they do like events where everyone's coming to all the fraternities are coming together and volunteering, or is it just one on the north side of campus, one on the south side? Like I don't know, so I don't want to overstep, but I do find that when I watch anything that have to do with fraternities or sororities, it's always one against the other. It's never
Right.
them
Right.
working together in unison. Um, so that's a good point. It reminds me of African tribes. Before slavery, uh, you know, we always hear about how the African people, one tribe would sell out the other tribe. And kind of reminds me of that. Um, and once again, I don't know all the dynamics from those times, but what I've seen on these shows and movies is it's always one against the other, rather than being like, hey, how about we come together for the greater good? Um, so that's you kind of popped into my head when you were sharing that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an important a conversation, a perspective to bring up, right? Like making a correlation to tribalism, right? Tribalism is the group that I'm in is all that bad. Is don't associate me with anyone else, anything else. But if the root of the fraternity or the sorority is rooted in black unity, why take offense if I don't know or if I'm not aware if the core what the work is supposed to be is rooted in blackness. Um, and I think that's what the National Pan Hellenic Council does. I think their job is to kind of bring the different fraternities and sororities together to, um, I guess, work on bigger picture ideas. I'm not 100% sure. Uh, so maybe so I guess like from what what it says they do, right? I don't know what it says they do. There is a united effort. We just don't know in what capacity. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's I mean, we kind of go into like the blackness and whiteness, right? Like you brought up the idea of competition, um, and the theme for blackness usually feels like unity and tribalism, but then we subvert into smaller groups, and we forget that the like I think I might have brought this up in a previous episode, or I mean I've been talking about this a lot that the black experience feels like it's in a better place, right? It feels like it's a better place. We had all of last year. It feels like this progress, but my perspective is the only reason it feels that way is because we've gone into these such small groups, right? We've gone into these small groups where, my the 10 people I fuck with, or just the 10 people I fuck with, we're all doing good, right? And our, we made progress, but we don't realize that the collective experience is still struggling. Um, I mean, and for me, that's part of that's the long term effect of, I mean, everything going on recently. But yeah,
Yeah, but even, and this is a little off topic, but even when you look at progress, you can't. I believe you can't have progress without having goals,
right,
right? So I think a lot of times when it comes to blackness, or the black culture, when things happen for us, that wasn't a goal for us. We didn't have that goal collectively, but it's cool it
right,
happened. So
right,
I think, if it's, police reform, or if it's, voter rights, if these things, prison reform, if these things, if we have these goals and then not being, and not nothing's happening, but then, they just let this guy out who was wrongfully convicted 50 years ago, and we're like all celebrating, we're posting it, we're saying,
right, 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 right.
they're like, oh, it's a win. Realistically, progression, for me, needs to be measured. I need to be able to measure it. I need to be like, this is the five things that we tried to do in 2020. We were able to accomplish three. Great. Um, yeah, the small things are cool. Like, yeah, Juneteenth being a holiday, it's cool. But that was that a goal for the culture per se. So, um, a little off topic, but I think, what you're saying is spot on when it comes to understanding that you, if I'm winning and you're winning, I don't care if I walk past a guy on the street that maybe homeless is not winning. I don't care, because my people winning. Like, nah,
Right,
that's
right.
it should,
Oh, I'm Ron. I'm in college. We good, right? Let's
yeah.
go to let's get a job. Like, right? Like, nah.
And as I talk about, I say us because I really believe in human, like us as humans, right? I'm really big on that. Like, I'm a black man. I get it, but a lot of what happens in my life and people that I've connected with, some of the best opportunities I've gotten, both personally and professionally, were from people of other races. It was because I did a good. I was qualified, and it doesn't
Right.
always go that way. I understand there are discrepancies and kind of how things work. I get it, but I also believe that you can't. There's no such thing as progress without goals. I just, like, it just, in my mind, it doesn't work that way. Like, yes, things can progress, and you didn't create a goal for it, but at some point you have to be like, yo, this there's a goal to get to this point. So
Yeah, I feel it feels like to your point that it ends up just being a fluke, right? Like if this isn't something that we work toward, if it's something that we planned, it just happened because it happened, right? Because someone else in power said we're gonna do this. Like why not? Let's just throw them this bone and let it happen. Like when you brought up the protest episode, right? My mind immediately just went to the power of unity, the power of community, right? Like really invoking or trying to force change. And you brought up Dwayne, like, oh well, I was wrong, and he takes fault and ownership for it, and the dynamic changes and the conversation changes. Um, I look at, I see posts, I see events, and I see I brought up earlier this year. I brought up the idea of like this year, like this needs to be like the Black Renaissance year, right? Like this 2021, 2022, maybe these next 5 years really need to be like a Black Renaissance, where Black people are really creating more art and pushing the experience and culture forward. I mean, for me, this is part of it. Like this podcast is part of it.
I
But
agree.
sometimes I see language, um, and I think about the protests from last year. And did you go any protests in Philly or New York?
I did not. So I'll quickly say this: the reason I didn't go to any protests is because I protested heavy when Eric Garner was killed, was murdered. Heavy. I was out some maybe like 2 weeks straight. Every day after work, I was protesting, and I felt nothing happen. So I was like,
Right.
this time around, I'm not gonna. COVID's happening. I'm not. I'll support where I can, but I'm not going to hit the streets like I did last time, and I didn't. So no.
Yeah. So I did. Well, Erica and I went out like week after week initially, and then the dynamic changed, and I saw the jokes, I saw the flim flam, I saw I saw I saw the flim flam by black people, right? I saw the movement get co-opted by black people, and the dynamic changed, and everything changed. And the first time we went out, it was you saw a lot of black people, but then day after day,
Yep.
there's white faces, and the majority of the crowd was just white people. And when I watch TV and when I see, you see the riots, or you see posts on social media, you see white people. So in my mind, I'm like, white people put boots on the ground last year for the most part. The majority of boots on the ground that I saw, directly and indirectly, were white people.
Yep.
So, like to your point of Juneteenth, when I see the fluke, right? The fluke of just being like, all right, well, here's this, right? Like since blackness didn't really put the effort in to do the work, right? We I know we kind of going left, but it's part of the experience, right? It's part of the experience. We all this, and in the past we had Martin, we had Malcolm, we had individuals to idolize, but now we just have groups, right? Now we just have Black Lives Matter, the group, right? There's a movement and there's a group, and I mean, you know who's running the group, but you don't know them. You don't know them. You don't know their backgrounds. You don't know their history. You don't know their real intentions, right? There's the belief that they're, and I mean, they've said it, right, that they're Marxists. Then
Yeah.
What does Marxism have to do with blackness? Nothing, nothing in any capacity. Um, and even and Marxism is a white guy, right?
Yeah.
So like, there's all this convoluted disinformation and confusion. But for me, the bigger picture is just that what happened during the civil rights era is not what happened last year, and what right now, what little we're gaining is just a fluke. It's just little tidbits, right? Like Black Lives Matter gave their list of demands to Biden. 100 wanted within 100 days. Yeah, you didn't get it. You didn't get it. Um, and it goes back to not not for me. I say not not really fighting for the freedom, and I get it. It's not. It's scary. It's challenging, right? Like there's so much to lose. We have so much. So we're scared to lose what little we have. Um, so yeah, I don't know how to end that thought.
No, no. I was actually I didn't want to cut you off, but I was going to say I actually don't think that we're going off topic. This is what this podcast is about. Like, yeah, we should be talking more about we did episodes specifically about a different world and what how that affects the culture, but the culture we're talking about is this.
Right.
So I don't think we're we spent some time talking about it. It's fine, but I do, and I'll leave it at this. I do think creating or having demands or saying this needs to happen and that needs to happen, all that shit is nice. It's cute. But when the demands or when these things are not met, there needs to be action, right?
Right.
And that action needs to be developed and talked about before the action actually comes into play. And that's always been a challenge for me. And you're one of my best friends. We talk about this stuff all the time. And we think having these conversations about culture is important because basically what you and I are doing are telling people or letting people know we already been down this road. This ain't nothing new.
Right.
Like these
Right.
conversations that we're talking, these shows, these movies, a lot of these shows and movies, they've been out 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And we're still talking, like you said, the protests in the show, the ballerina episode in the show. Like these are things that have been
Eric
happening.
Garner, right?
They've been
George
happening for
Floyd, black
years.
body still dying. Yeah.
So I think what we're doing and what we're creating is we're basically attempting to open people's eyes, not even like kind of just doing it as a part of the conversation to show people that civil rights in the 60s and 50s, that like that was then, and yes, we're having our own movement now, but there are things we could take from that to not repeat history and learn and be able to move forward. And I think there's a lot. That's the problem I feel like that we have as a people is there's a lot of history being repeated, and every now
Right.
and then, like you said, they'll sprinkle a little something on there for us, and we're like, yeah, we got.
Yeah.
They gave us this, and they gave us that. Oh, they're gonna put. They're gonna put a blackface on Harriet Tubman on a dollar bill. Whoa, I'm gonna be able to see her on a dollar bill. Like it just, I'm 100% for it. I'm not gonna say no to it, but I also really believe that when we say we need to set goals, we need to set goals. It could be 50 goals, but how are we gonna get to the solution? How are we gonna get to actually, completing those goals? And I think that's the whole point on why I'm rambling about this. But yeah,
Right. And also, it's like going back to the idea of goals. What's the next step, right? Like you brought up Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, and then what? What is that? What is that? What does it really mean, right? What does it really change, right? Um, is it saying that she's on equal footing with the presidents? Like, what is it? What is it really telling people? What is it really cueing? Right? MLB on the mound excuse me, Black Lives Matter on the MLB pitching mound, Black Lives Matter on the NBA court. It's gone now. Like no one cares. Basketball, it's the finals. No one cares, right? Um, and it's there's a lack of holding people accountable, right? So last year, Jordan donated 100 million to anti-racist. What is it? Racism against Black people. Where's it at? Jordan, Jordan and his Jordan brand will donate $100 million to social organizations dedicated to ensuring racial equality. The company announced on Friday. This is from CNBC from June 5th, 2020. Right, and it's like, okay, great, but what's next? Like, who's in charge of those organizations? Is anyone keeping tabs of where that money is going? Right? Is anyone following up? Are people going to the inner cities, to the Black communities, and like, all right, what do you guys need? Right? Like, how do we put this money into the communities? Right? The money goes to these organizations, but the issues have still been going on for years. I saw this meme earlier, and someone wrote. Um, I'm gonna try to pull up, but so along the lines of someone donated. If Akon, right, can invest, it's like X amount of money
to bring
and give
light.
right to like 600 million African
Yeah,
countries. What have these nonprofits been doing for the past 60 years, right?
electricity. He brought
Right,
electricity.
electricity. Excuse me, not just like electricity, right? And that ends up being a flim flam, right? So like you see. I mean, granted, maybe that's part of it, right? Akon, he's focusing on his people, his continent, or his country. He's focused directly on them. There's a deeper, richer connection. Blackness in the United States is just blackness, right? Like I said, I'm Haitian American, right? Like I looked at a photo of myself, and I'm like, yo, I'm Haitian. I look like a Haitian. I look like a Haitian,
Yeah,
and I accept that, and I'm proud of that. But within this realm, I'm just black, so it's just me and African Americans and Jamaican Americans and Nigerian people, and we're all this one big collective group of people. But innately, right? We've talked about tribalism. There's an innate tribalism in me. Yeah. I want to uplift the Haitian experience as a collective,
100%.
but I
Yeah,
also yeah, but I also know that it can't just be that. I know that there's also responsibility for the whole Black collective because I am here as a Black person, right? And that's part of the work in this. That's part of like the idea of the Black Renaissance and pushing the whole culture and collective into a new direction. And I think Black people, just don't see that because again, we've all collectively gone, every group, every race of people have collectively gone into the echo chambers, into their safe spaces where Thomas is good, I'm good, so I'm good, like we good, I ain't got nothing to worry about. But like, nah, once if you have kids, I want to have kids. outside of that, they're on their own in their own world. And if I haven't done if I haven't done the work, if I haven't been responsible as an adult to kind of change the narrative and experience forward, instead of, like you said, sprinkling, having someone up top sprinkle a little something for me, or just having these flukes, they're gonna have a shitty experience too. And I think that's what's being missed, and that's what's being taken away from the experience, right? More people just kind of focus on self, focus on just wanting to get by, and just do for self, man. And we end up in this cycle. We end up in this unfortunate cycle, and powerless to an extent.
Yeah, well, two things come to mind. One is when you talk about tribalism, it's even represented in a different world. I feel like a little bit with kind of Whitley's dynamic to
Right,
everyone else, pretty much everyone else.
right, right,
Um, so you see essentially little sprinkles again of how uh, it plays a role. But I feel like as the show and the seasons start to progress, Whitley starts becoming. She starts to see the light.
right.
Maybe it's because of love. I don't know. But that's one. And then the second thing, and I've always thought about this. When I hear that these companies donate millions of dollars to social justice, or the NBA is giving millions, like you just said, $100 million to social justice from Jordan Brand. Why doesn't Jordan Brand just create a division in Jordan Brand, like in their own company, hire more black people to do job to work for them, and create the exact social change they want to get people money to do themselves? Like, why
Right.
are these companies doing that? Why are these companies giving money to organizations? And don't get me wrong, organizations need the money, and organizations are doing good work. But why not work in partnership with an organization and create a arm under your business that is doing
Right.
this? And the answer is pretty easy, because it's a tax write-off. That's why they don't have to do any work. They literally just,
Damn,
hey,
you hit him with the uppercut. You're right. You're right.
it's a tax write-off. So they're like,
You're
here
right.
you go. Here's
You're right.
$100 million. Leave us the hell alone. Put our name on everything. Say we did it, and that's it. And
Right.
I don't want to say every single business is doing this and every single company is doing this, but when I see we care about, I see Nike's, 3-4 sentences about social change. Like you said, Black Lives Matter on the court. That's cool. But when the NBA creates an arm, or creates a division in the NBA that's focused on social justice, and they might have it, so I might be wrong. I haven't done the research, but when they created a vision that actually, they have people in their organization that all their job is to do is to connect with the community around social change, social reform, uh, around prison reform. Like, and this is such a powerful conversation. So I like that you brought this up. I think so much about Maya Moore, how Maya Moore, WNBA player,
WNBA.
WNBA
Yeah.
player who left the WNBA to focus on uh, supporting her now husband, who was wrongfully convicted, get out of jail, and her team and who she partnered up with, they end up getting his release, and now she's married and she's living this great life, and she's like, I don't need the WNBA. The WNBA wasn't supporting what I needed, so I had to do it on my own, and she left her career to focus on that. She's the perfect example of what a whole company can do that has all those
Right.
resources, all that money. So, um, like I said, I appreciate you bringing this up because I think it's important. And I guess the best way to kind of leave it is, we always talk about how these shows impact the culture and what they bring to the culture, or what they brought to the culture when they were airing, or whatever the case may be. I would love to end it on, everybody loves a different world. Everybody I talk to about it, especially black people, they love it. Why does it have this level of nostalgia and love that people are, they feel connected to it? Yeah, you and I just spent, hour talking about some of those things, but it has to be something more. Like, it has to be something more that people are tied to. The nostalgia of it. And I always thought it was the love that Willie and Dwayne had. That's something I remember very
Right.
clearly. But there's so much more to the show that I never hear people talk about. So I'm just
Right.
wondering. and to end it on that, what are your thoughts on why people still love this show so much, and what can we take away from this show to help us move forward as a culture? Like, yeah,
Um, I mean, I think it kind of goes back into what I said earlier about the surface. Like as a kid, considering our ages, considering the show came out in the '80s, right up to when did it end? Like
'93.
1990, 93, right?
Yeah.
We were teens. We're not even. We were children, right? We cared about the laughs. We cared about the love story. And Dwayne and Whitley's love story didn't even happen until like the end of season 4, right? It was this back and forth flow. It was this long anticipation, which is it's beautiful within its right. It's frustrating at times because like you want them to get it right, but it's part of the sell. But you miss everything in between, like you said, right? We missed everything in between, and I say we. Granted, like I said, I don't remember watching it, but we missed everything in between. We missed the symbolism. We missed the the um the appreciation for like the bonding of generations. We the things we talked about today, right? The things we've realized like watching it, right? I want to watch this whole show because there's so much inspiration behind it. Um, so I mean, I think on my end, the only answer I have is, and it's not kind of a direct answer, but it's hoping that people rewatch it and look past the laughter, look past the love, look past the love of the characters, right? But look at the collective love of the experience and what it represents. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason I asked you that question is because I really believe, and we're very much so aligned. But I'm gonna take it a step further. I believe that how you and I watch these these forms of media for the podcast, I think there literally should be either classes or courses out there where we're watching these past shows, and we're watching this with intent. Like we're going into it knowing,
With a goal, right?
right?
Like you said, yeah.
Exactly, going into it knowing like, hey, I want to learn how this has affected the culture. Yeah, the fluff is nice, but beyond the fluff, what is this representing? What did these directors and writers build from? Like I would love. I was just looking at the Wikipedia page, and Debbie Allen produced, I would say, like 80% of season 2 through 6. And there were other producers and writers. There was writers for every show. I would love to talk to those writers and understand what they were thinking, and what they wanted people to take away from those episodes. And then we have to keep in mind, which someone brought up to me, a friend of mine brought up to me, that when people were watching the show back then, it was a week to week show. So they were watching an episode and then have a week to kind of soak in it. Whereas you and I
Right,
are
right.
watching the episode back to back to back to back. So, it becomes something that can be a little draining. But when you're watching an episode and in the episode it ends with, black women can't be ballerinas, I wonder what that week was for everyone who watched that episode,
Right.
anticipating the next episode the following week and the conversations that were happening in the community. We don't know what that was like because we're watching the show in its entirety. So, you know, I I really hope that we continue to, and then when I say we, I'm not just talking about you and I. Anyone who's watching these shows, these movies, listening to these albums, we're doing it with intent. We're doing it with a goal in mind. Um, and we talked about it when we were listening to It Was Written and 444. Listening to it.
A written
I'm sorry.
testimony.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Nas now. You see, I'm bugging. Written testimony at 444. Thanks. And how when we originally listened to it, we heard one thing, and then when we listened to it for the podcast, it totally changed our perspective because we had a
Right.
goal in mind. So I'm hoping, not to ramble, but I'm hoping that that's what people get if you're someone who's listening to our podcast. Thank you for rocking with us. Of course, we appreciate it, but I hope that anything you watch that has to do, I won't even do that. Anything you watch, um, look at it have some type of intention and see what is, see what the underlying story is and what you can gain from it. But especially things that represent the Black culture. I would challenge that.
I mean, the only thing I want to add is like piggybacking off your idea for intent is to look for inspiration. I mean, there's entertainment and then there's inspiration, right? Like I can watch the NBA finals for entertainment, but I can watch a different world for inspiration, right? The inspiration for both of us is having something to talk about and connecting it to the collective Black experience. So I think that there always needs to be intent with what we're consuming and making. Um, uh, the initial word is responsible, but maybe balance and fair choices, right? Like you want to be inspired, but you want to be entertained also. But leaving enough room in your life, or maybe creating space, creating rituals or consuming content, mostly looking to be inspired and entertained, because the inspiration allows you to do more. Inspiration allows you to create a list. The inspiration allows you to be boots on the ground to invoke the change that you want for yourself and your life, while the entertainment is just for you, right? Entertainment is just for me. It's for me to enjoy it. It's for me to tell people, hey, I saw this and this happened to me. But the inspiration is to cultivate for yourself and for your life experience. So yeah.
Yeah, I say it's a great way to leave it.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
So this is episode 6. I don't know why I'm saying 5 because it's a different world. So I'm like, yo.
Right.
But yeah, this is episode 6. Thanks for listening. And if you want to follow us or stay up to date with everything that we have going on, you can follow us on IG. We're just doing IGs now, right? We're not doing all IGs. We're just doing the podcast IG.
Yeah. That's the podcast.
So a Black Culture Podcast is our IG. And we're gonna be doing we're gonna do a clubhouse because we have to do season 6. So are we gonna do this would be our we'll do a clubhouse for season 6 because we have to finish season 6 and we like to talk.
Right.
So you can definitely connect with us on Clubhouse. Usually we do it on Fridays, but I would say if you're interested in being a part of it, definitely follow us on IG and we can announce it there. That's something that we probably should start doing. So yeah, we'll have that there, and then I'm one of the hosts, Thomas.
I'm your other co-host Clifford, and after the clubhouse, the last episode we're doing, next episode we're doing, and the last one before we take a month off is going to be Fresh, right?
Yes.
The movie Fresh. Okay. All right.
So yeah, that's it's good that you bring it up because those who are listening, I would definitely suggest checking Fresh out before you listen to the next episode.
All right. Till next time. Peace.
Peace out, guys.